What is up, my people? Welcome to another one. And today we're going to talk about the new trailer and how it just took me down memory lane. Um, on Masters of the Universe and stuff like that. Because to me, Masters of the Universe, you know, it was just toys. Because I really didn't know what these toys were about. And I had all of them, by the way. I had well, not all of them, but most of the important ones. Um, and I had the castle and some of the vehicles. Man at Arms isn't here, but I had Man at Arms. There was a guy with the stretchy neck. I had that guy too. There's a Juggernaut looking guy. I had that guy too. Everybody. The big ass green tiger. I had him too. Um, and so, but I didn't know what these characters were from. I just um the thing is like when it came to TV, um first of all, we didn't have cable. That's number one. Number two, we weren't allowed, when I was younger, I wasn't allowed to look at a lot of things. Um and so like Ninja Turtles were off the table. We're gonna talk about that too. But He-Man, I don't think He-Man was off the table, but I don't think He-Man was ever on TV when I was growing up because I grew up in the 90s. I was born in 86, so I mean 87. And then so by the time I was like able to recognize what I was looking at, and aware, it was already the 90s. And so most of the media I was consuming was 90s things. And some of the things I wasn't allowed to look at. Like, for example, the Ninja Turtles. Part of the reason why I'm so obsessed with them now is because when I was younger, I wasn't able to see the freaking Ninja Turtles, because they were supposedly evil, and they were gangster. As they would say that literally that's what they would say about Ninja Turtles. They're evil and they have too much like attitude or whatever. But we'll get into that. We'll get into that. When it comes to He-Man, um, yeah, I had all the toys, and I would play with all the toys, and make up my own freaking stories because I didn't know what the hell I was looking at. I just thought these toys were cool, and so I'm pretty sure that the guy with the skeleton face is the bad guy, and the guy with the symbol on his chest is a good guy. And I actually thought that He-Man was Conan the Barbarian, because I did see the movie Conan the Barbarian, and when I was younger, it was one of my favorite movies. And I thought that He-Man was Conan. He had a sword. He was like muscular. He had furry boots. So I was like, it's Conan the Barbarian. Fuck it. We're just gonna make up our own stories and shit. Um, but of course, later on, I figured out that a lot of the names of these guys, and I figured out this guy was He Man. But I still didn't like the cartoon because by the time I was you know able to get cable, right? Because I wasn't always poor, but when we were younger, we just couldn't afford cable. When I was a little baby boy, but later on we were, and I hated it. It's just stupid. I thought He-Man was retarded because by that time I already had seen Batman the Animated Series. I had already seen Superman. I had already seen a bunch of animation that was way better than He-Man. So in my mind, I was like, man, He-Man is trash. To be honest with you, to this day, I think it's trash. The only thing I like about it is Skeletor because he's funny. Um, But other than that, I thought the whole thing was corny and kind of, to be honest with you, kind of gay. Like, even looking back at these characters now, I mean, this is some gay shit. Look at He-Man, like how he's dressed. There's actually a guy called Fisto who was like weirdly gay. Um, Another one of my favorite toys was Hachiman. Hachiman was actually, my favorite toy. And like I said, I didn't know Thundercats either, but I just knew that I liked this toy. And I knew that in my story, he was going to be the main character. And so he was whooping everybody's ass. He was whooping He-Man's ass. He was whooping, of course, later I figured out that he was just a side character for Thundercats. When I was like, because to me, like I said, I could only say what I know. And when I was a kid, one of my favorite movies was the Street Fighter. And to me, Hachiman was the Street Fighter. It was Sony Chiba, and Sony Chiba also played a samurai in another movie that I also watched when I was a kid. So it was just weird what I was allowed to watch and what I wasn't allowed to watch. Because as a kid, there were certain things that we weren't allowed to watch because they were evil or like whatever. But for some reason, they let us watch Sony Chiba ripping throats out of people's. It just didn't make any sense. Also, we were allowed to watch wrestling. Wrestling is violent, bro. Like, and so I grew up on wrestling and cowboy movies. And then, of course, later I guess I was allowed to watch those things because I was older, like Ninja Turtles and stuff like that. It just didn't make any sense to me. Even now, I'm thinking about it. I was like, what was my mom thinking? But yeah, to me, Hachiman was Sony Chiba. And but he was like my favorite toy when I was growing up. And it just goes to show you how in your brain if you're not rich, the bad thing is that you don't get the original stuff. But the good thing is that your imagination just takes off on its own, right? And you're able to this was another one of my favorite toys, by the way. And this was a Ninja Turtle toy. And the reason it just took me, this whole Masters of the Universe thing took me down memory lane on how I even knew about these toys or about these characters, and how I came to find out about it, and how I grew up on these toys that weren't even main characters. And a lot of these, I turned them into my main characters because of two things: poverty, religion. Religion. Because, I mean, to be honest, one of the main reasons that I wasn't allowed to watch Ninja Turtles at the beginning was because my mom was extremely religious and she thought that these things were evil. And of course, the poverty thing has to do with it too, because these toys were cheaper than the main characters. The main characters were more expensive. When you would go to Toys R Us, the main characters were definitely more expensive, and the side characters like this frog guy here and Hachiman, they came in bundles. They were trying to give them away. They came in bundles. You would get like two of them, for the price of one. And so that was another reason why, a lot of these side characters ended up being my favorite toys. And you add that to the fact that I wasn't watching a lot of the media, so I didn't even know that these guys sucked. You know what I mean? Like, to me, this guy was the main character. You know what I mean? He was, he was cool, by the way. He had glasses. And he had like look at him. He has like a Hawaiian shirt and he has like shorts. So he's just like a chill dude in the beach. And back in the day, I had gone to Mexico around the same time, and there was a lot of chill dudes in the beach with sunglasses and shit. So I was like, this is one of the guys, this is one of the boys. This is my uncle. So yeah, it's just when you grow up poor. What I'm trying to say is when you grow up poor, you have a way better imagination, and you use that imagination to make stories um with your toys. You know what I mean? Like, and you even make toys, by the way. Like, I was really good at making toys from old pieces of old toys and wires. So I had a lot of wires hanging out. I don't know why. Um and I was able to make new toys, out of old toys. Um so yeah, it's like it's just it just took me down memory lane just thinking about this. Um Masters of the Universe and all the toys that I used to have when I was a kid. Um and um and so yeah, but getting back to He-Man, I mean, it looks pretty cool, man. I mean, I like the way He-Man looks. I just like the vibes of it. I like the way the sword looks. You know, and another thing that I really, 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 really like is how Skeletor looks. Um, and yeah, I mean, I think so far, just the way it looks, I just think it's gonna be pretty crazy. It's gonna be pretty awesome. Um, and listen, I'm not trying to boast or anything, right? But to be honest, my imagination was better than the old Masters of the Universe cartoon. Just I'm just being honest. Now this though, this is good. This is closer to what I was imagining when I was a kid. And because like I said, when I watched the reruns of Masters of the Universe and even some of the Thundercats, I was more impressed for some reason by Thundercats and then He-Man. He-Man was a lot. Um, it was just not that good to me, personally. And of course, I did watch the remake of in Netflix, and I thought it was okay. It wasn't all that. The story in itself is just it's all right. It's not nothing to like write home about or anything like that. It's just it is what it is, right? But um, personally, like the things I was a fan of came up later on. Like for example, the Batman animated series, Superman Adventures. That's what I was looking at. And then also when I was younger and I wasn't allowed to look at these stuff, I was actually allowed to, or by my parents, I was allowed to look at some stuff like Darkwing Duck, Ducktales, Rescue Rangers, that kind of shit. Like that's what we were allowed to look at because they just were look more friendlier, I guess, and less demonic. Um, in my mom's eyes, I guess. So, but then one of the things that I want to come back, and a part of me doesn't want it to come back that much, is um it's two cats. I forgot what the name of the cartoon, but it's called SWAT Cats. I don't know if you guys remember SWAT Cats. SWAT Cats was probably the best cartoon and most underrated cartoon ever in the history of cartoons. And I'm not even kidding, dude. Like the art style, the animation, just I mean, whoever those guys are, whoever the guys that made that um who those guys are, man, I hope they went on to like make way more things cuz in my personal opinion, SWAT Cats was probably one of the best original cartoons that I remember from the 90s. And that's the thing about the 90s. The 90s had a lot of like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle copies, to where they would make like these mutated animal like humanoid type characters. Like there was I think it was machine mice or something like that, which is like four mice in motorcycles. There was a shark, hell sharks or something like that, which is like three sharks, right? Which is, it's all riffing off, or like you know, kind of copying off of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. You know, and we had a bunch of those. There was these frogs that also tried to do the same thing, try to copy the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And I think the reason that SWAT Kats didn't catch on was for the same reason, because people thought that it was just another copy of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, but it's really not, dude. You guys should definitely check out SWAT Kats. It was one of my favorite cartoons growing up, and so yeah. But this definitely took me back, man. It took me back to all of those cartoons that I used to like growing up. Of course, Masters of the Universe, definitely not one of them, you know. But it just reminded me of all the toys that I had, because I had all of the toys. You know, I had every single one of those things, and when I saw them in this trailer, I was like, I had that guy. You know, Man at Arms. The only difference is Man at Arms is black now, which I don't mind. I know a lot of people are probably gonna, you know, make a big deal about it. But it's what's his name? Idris Elba, or whatever his name is. The guy's a great actor, and the mustache looks great on him. So I don't think it's that big of a deal. So we're just gonna have to see how many of the toys that I had, because I saw a bunch of them. I saw a Beast, with some Beast Man or whatever. And who else? I saw the Tiger, but he's not, you know, big. And he doesn't have the armor, because the toy I had, it had the armor, and he was huge. You know, because you look at these toys here. He-Man, the reason his legs are all bow-legged like that is because he was able to ride the Tiger. That's why all of these guys are like this, because they all had different types of vehicles that they would ride, or animals in the case of He-Man. But anyways, guys, that is going to be it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, going down memory lane and going on to like the toys that I used to have, and why my imagination is so crazy even today is because I had to make up stories for these guys. You know, I had to make up stories for all of these guys. And yeah, even today now is the same thing. You know, it's like I just make up stories, dude. That's what I do basically. But anyways, guys, that is going to be it for today. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and I will catch you guys later.